What has he been accused of?
Trespassing by name. It's recorded.
Ladies and gentlemen, please conduct yourself in a proper manner. Please. Sir, would you please be seated? Thank you.
I think if y'all gonna vote on something, we ought to have a comment on it.
Madam Chairman?
We've not.
Sir,
Florida Statute 1001.372, subparagraph 3 says that if you're interfering with a school board meeting, after you've been warned to stop interfering, you will be ejected. We have a law enforcement officer here that can enforce that. This time, I would indicate that you've been warned not to interfere with this meeting.
Madam Chairman,
okay, Mr. Farrell.
with the board having declared an emergency, I move that the board authorize Mr. Bickner, the board attorney, to immediately file a petition for injunction seeking a court order barring Reverend Baker and others who are participating in this unauthorized entry on school safety zones and congregating on school property and from entering on or remaining on a school campus. I move that.
Would you, just a minute, I want you to repeat that, please.
I move that the board, having declared an emergency, authorize our attorney, Mr. Bickner, to immediately file a petition for injunction seeking a court order barring the Reverend Baker and others who are participating in this unauthorized entry onto the school safety zone and congregating on school property from entering on or remaining on a school campus.
And I have a second.
I second.
Let me ask you this. What about the trespass warning? How does...
This is independent of the trespass warning. The superintendent, under his own authority as the chief executive officer of the school district, is initiating that action. This is collateral to that action. And again, the intent is to move the question into the court and let the court begin to deal with it.
Best action dog.
Are we... I guess it healed itself.
So that is a motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I believe that we are not taking our own problem and solving it at the lowest level. We're an elected board. People expect us to have policies on things. We obviously don't have a policy that clearly addresses this. We can fix this in-house ourselves, which we've acknowledged tonight that we would have liked to have had the chance to do that. I would like a chance to look at some of these policies, hear from some of these constitutional lawyers, craft our own policy, and put them all together or trespassing our citizens.
You're talking about making a policy about prayer at school, on school grounds?
We had a pretty decent agenda on the workshop that we didn't have. I just think we ought to pick that agenda up before we start trespassing our citizens, dragging ourselves into court, and figure out our policy. We're smart enough to do that.
But why would we set policy about something that's illegal? I mean, we don't have policy that we want.
We have freedoms and liberties that our Constitution provides. We no longer have the same amount of freedoms and liberties we probably had when the founders wrote the Constitution, because there have been several court cases. But there is an appropriate amount of free speech and free assembly that is left. We can't possibly think at 10 o'clock at night we're going to figure all this out, but we could set aside some time and a date certain to go through a discovery process with policies. This isn't reinventing the wheel. There are school districts, councils, other elected boards that have policies that are very clear, very neutral, that allow freedom of speech, which includes prayer, and keeps them out of lawsuits. I'm just proposing that we ought to get our own house in order here before we go take ourselves.
Again, I would make the observation, funny enough, I don't disagree with you. I think I disagree with the sequence of events. We have a situation where the Reverend Baker has elected to not comply with the agreement that was reached. That sets up a set of circumstances where the school board is, and the administration, is vulnerable to legal action. I want to make sure that we are moving forward to protect what we must protect, which is the safety of our children and the orderly conduct of our educational programs, and at the same time protect us against what could well be a very, very expensive lawsuit and a judgment in the courts against the school district. Now, the trespass mechanism that the superintendent has proposed is frankly a warning to Reverend Baker and his associates. They may very well be willing to comply with that, and on the other hand, they may very well want to defy it, and that's their choice. That's certainly their choice. If they choose to defy it, I'm suggesting that we have in motion a vehicle to take it into the court, which is the injunction. Now, again, having said that, I don't disagree with you. We can discuss this and discuss this roundly. And again, for the third time, I remind all of us, you're not an attorney, I'm not an attorney, you're not a constitutional authority, nor am I. So we can seek advice and counsel as we choose to seek advice and counsel, and we can talk about it, and I think it's a good thing to talk about it, and talk about it in the public forum.
Well, we're all well aware that we're not attorneys. So that was part of the reason that we wanted a workshop, was so that we could maybe get a few questions answered. But I still had another question that had to do, and I don't know who to ask, but maybe you know, Mr. Farrell. If we're maybe being sued, you know, lawsuit, would it mean just the school system, or would it mean, you know, would Reverend Baker be sued too, or you know,
Well,
how does all that going to work out?
And again, I'm not licensed to practice law in the state of Florida, so I won't. But I can tell you that what can happen in terms of a suit, this school board can be sued, the superintendent of the schools can be sued, and you individually, as a school board member, can be sued. Okay, so
I know that much. I really wanted to know, you know, would other citizens be sued also, or just us?
Well, we just need to be clear. This is not about us trying to use the schools to endorse religion, endorsing one religion or another. This isn't even a Christian or conservative, left-wing, right-wing issue. This is about the right of our citizens to peaceably, lawfully assemble on public property and share ideas and opinions, including prayer. There is a right and appropriate amount of that which may take place. All we've said tonight is if Reverend Baker does it again, he'll be trespassed. We haven't even answered the one man's question about if he's going to be arrested. So I think dragging ourselves into court, I'll say this one more time and then I'll stop, before we sit down and get our own house in order would be very ill-advised.
Mr. Van Zant, can you tell me what is unclear in your mind about State Statute 810.0975 2B? The language is very, very concise and very precise. And I'll be more than happy to read it to you again if you'd like.
Please do.
Quote, during the period from 1 hour prior to the start of the school session and until 1 hour after the conclusion of the school session, it is unlawful for any person to enter the premises or trespass within a school safety zone, and I've defined that, or to remain on such premises when that person does not have legitimate business, authorization, license, or invitation to enter or remain in the school safety zone. Violation is a misdemeanor of the second degree. The language, I mean, again, for non-attorneys, I don't think you need to be an attorney to understand the English language. That's pretty darn clear.
We have a responsibility to our students and our parents to keep the campuses safe and secure, and I feel like if we don't become proactive at this point, it's just going to prolong it, it's going to go on and on and on. We need to let the courts handle it at this point. That's all I feel.
Okay, I don't even remember what the motion was now. What's the last motion?
I move that the board authorize Mr. Bickner, the board attorney, to immediately file a petition for injunction seeking a court order barring the Reverend Baker and others for participating in this unauthorized entry onto school safety zones and congregating on school property and from entering on or remaining on the school campus.
brains are slowing down a little bit. It's silly? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries 3-2 with Ms. Graham and Mr. Van Zandt abstaining. Okay. One thing that I do want to add, I like peace, and I like us all working together. But I want to ask y'all something. I was thinking about it this afternoon. I know that y'all really want to help at our schools and help our students, and we have many schools who could use some mentors. If y'all could spare 30 minutes a week,
We already do it.
if you would go and fill out the background check and come, are you a mentor?
Background check?
Good.
Background check.
But we would love it. A lot of those kids could use some help with their reading or their math and a good role model. But then you would be there signing in. We know who you are. You're there officially.
Is there any time that I can speak or not? Am I allowed to address anything?
No, I don't mind.
It may be the last 3 words I have since there's been an injunction.
Okay, Reverend Baker, would you?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful. Y'all have said I violated the resolution that was legally put together by Mr. Bickner and Mr. McCarthy. I'm just a country boy, but let me read to you what it says. You're looking at it. It says, Reverend Baker will discontinue his morning prayer sessions at the flagpoles of the 4 elementary schools. Reverend Baker did that. I did not have prayer at any of those 3 flagpoles. Nowhere. Show me in there that it says I am not allowed at the flagpole. Doesn't say that. It says I can't be at the flagpole and pray. I know, dancing a jig, I got it, I understand. You're not in favor. Got it. But I have done my best to listen to the resolution and to abide by it. Now I've got an injunction sworn out against me? Oh my goodness. Then you want peace? I don't think anybody here feels the same way.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
He can't even go to our grandson's assembly.
Yeah, how about
Can't
that?
drop him off at school.
I have grandchildren in schools. I'm not allowed to be on a school to go to a voter.
Sir,
Madam Chair,
sir,
drop the hammer on this, don't let it.
okay. The next item on the agenda, class size flexibility. Ms. Adams, we'll take just a minute if the room is.
Are we in recess? Are we in recess?
The next item on the agenda, Ms. Adams, is class size flexibility.
Yes, Madam Chair, we have brought before you tonight, I've got this, thank you, Bruce wrote it, is to put us in compliance.
Mr. Robinson, please, we're trying to conduct our meeting. Okay, Ms. Adams.
What this does is formalizes our flexibility that we're allowed to by Florida statute after we met class size, which I have to report unofficially to you that we have met it. We haven't gotten the word from Tallahassee, but Ms. Hans has worked with Ms.